the ability to enter the next axes of superposed charge rotation, otherwise known as the next dimension, which is what your DNA is doing. Lattice, cobweb, tunnel, spiral. You see? So your DNA is projecting a field. And that ability to project a field in physics is called phase conjugate. Now, phase conjugation in physics simply means, you see that thing that looks like a caduceus on the left? Well, the ancient name for the life wizards, or the life designers, from which we get our name, the seraphim, the high forms of angels, the ancient name for that was Cadistu, from which we get the word caduceus. Okay? Now, the caduceus is on the top left. It's a braiding algorithm that allows waves to compress. Let's see if we can get the animations to play here. Abel's a little tired. There we go. There we go. Okay. So the ability to bring waves to a point, or get fractal in physics, is called phase conjugation. Phase conjugation is physics' way of talking about self-organization and time reversal in optics and dielectrics. It's basically what your DNA is doing at the moment of death. It's creating an electric field that has wings to fly. And the shape of those wings is that arc angle of that caduceus, right? The ancient Sumerian name for the angelic lineage was Angal, the angelic lineage. And so that ability to be charge projective at death is the physics of what we're supposed to learn about here when we learn that projective geometry. Now, the thing that creates that thrust, remember we're talking about the heart. The 5 spins inside, 7 spins outside, Anu, meaning sun god, origin of the shape of the center of the heart's muscle, and also the center of the heart of the sun and the heart of hydrogen, is based on this shape, which is called the pericardium. Now, the shape of the pericardium is the container of muscle that holds the heart, which also happens to be the geometry of the hat of Osiris. And as we know from the crop circle, that teaches us that if you have the muscles to control the geometry of your pericardium, you control the direction of the gravity motor that's the electric thrust of your heart. And the way you measure that is you take a power spectrum of your EKG and you can measure love. It's called the HeartTuner. It's my new invention. And we can measure empathy and love by heart coherence. And we take an analysis of the harmonics of your heart. And when your heart is phase coherent, then that fractality of the fibers of Purkinje drives the gravity motor, which is the thrust of your heart. So in the same way that if you have muscles to shape the retina, your eyeball, then you can focus. Coherent emotion is the ability to evolve the muscles of your pericardium to control the geometry of the nozzle on the rocket motor of what is the gravity thrust of your heart. It's important to know that fractality is the electric cause of gravity, and then you can understand how your heart, being very electrically fractal, is a device to fabricate the gravitational thrust that's the motor of your aura, the plasma domain, which introduces you to the physics of what could become an angel. So that angelic domain now leads us to the more esoteric sciences. So that was our little background, and now we need to tell Earth's angel story. This story features a hero named James Bond. I mean, John Dee. John Dee's code name for Queen Elizabeth was 007. It's a true story. And John Dee, many people believe, had just taught Bacon to be Shakespeare, had the largest library on planet Earth, and said, well, gee, we speak all these languages. We really need to talk to the angels, because apparently angels consider humans to be drunk because we're not calling them, and we're toast without them. So, hello, let's learn their language, their alphabet. So, he said, hello, we need the angels here. And sure enough, an Ophanim angel knocked on his window, handed him a green stone, which you should look at in the British Museum. It's still there. And if you look at that green stone, with just even a slight amount of ability to perceive weak electric charge called clairvoyance, you see this alphabet, which became Ophanim Enochian and later Greek, and the books on Enochian physics. I need the IFS. I wrote down my numbers here. Slide number 186. 1 second. Ophanim Enochian, which is basically Stargate alphabets, angel physics. It's cool stuff. I like it. I consider it fun. So you looked in this green stone and you saw this little alphabet. The weak electric fields, which turns out to be the recordings of the angles of symmetry to project your plasma, your aura, into stars. By the way, this we're about to see became the movie Stargate. Yeah? And my friend VincentBridges.com taught me the symmetry of the arrangement of those letters in that table. And I'm about to get to Eric's song about Gabriel and Mikhail. We're explaining the physics here, okay? So the symmetry of those letters in that table form what's called a hypercube. And the geometry of that layout of the letters in the tablet, the symmetry, the pattern, was called the tablet of Nalvaj. And the outside of that pattern was 6 cubes around 1, 7. And the inside was 5 cubes. 7 spins outside, 5 spins inside, which happens to be the dodecahedron. And the symmetry of that same slip knot, Anu, meaning sun god. And it forms this shape, which is basically implosion, a black hole. Now, you probably haven't been into the physics, but the latest unified field physics features a thing called E8 by Surfer Dude, which is all based on golden ratio, and they found all the fundamental particles in one simple symmetry set called E8 that looks very much like this, based on golden ratio, and that's how you make black holes and stargates, and the physics of alchemy, I mean black holes, all fun stuff. Anyway, bottom line is, that alphabet, that sequence of residues of these little plasma domains here became Greek, an order of Golden Dawn, the highest form of magic on planet Earth today, founded by John Dee, and the physics of alchemy. And remember, you just need to know this, that the word chem in alchemy means the place of the black hole. So your chemistry teacher didn't teach you the origin of the word chem, and so you didn't really know what chemistry was about, which is called black hole making. So the chem in chemistry and alchemy means the ability to implode. So if you read down the letters in the table, you get Eric's song. No, I mean you get Zavkiel, Sadkiel, Kunael, Raphael, Haniel, Mikhail, and Gabriel. So these were a sequence of symmetry operations to non-destructively compress the plasma domain, the charge field, the etheric formative force, the electric field, which could be immortal. And it's allowed to compress into a black hole. Well, this alphabet became Cherokee, became Thoth Emerald tablets, it became the Bonpo. You know how the Bonpo master lights a bonfire with their mind, which is also the initiation ritual I witnessed of the Cherokee. So the ability to compress charge with your mind requires knowing the sequences of these symmetry operations. Now, that means knowing your alphabet, the alphabet of these star languages. So these symbols of Ophanim and Enochian became the movie Stargate. You see? You saw the movie, how you compress and enter non-destructively. What happens is, if you look at the top-down view of DNA, what you see is a spiral that becomes the origin of the alphabet. And that spiral is called phase conjugation. So if I play the little movie here, let's see if I have it here. That spiral here. Here's the top-down view of your DNA right there. The waves add and multiply, and it's called phase conjugate. That's caduceus. I revolve that golden spiral from the side view to the top view. I see what's called the Holy Grail in the blood, which is actually a three-dimensional fractal. Yeah? And so you see the swastika there is simply a model of perfected compression. So I'm going to take that golden spiral, the perfect 3D fractal in your blood, and I'm going to animate that spiral as it self-organizes on the surface of the torus donut. And so you're going to see the origin of angel alphabets is actually simply the language of light, the only language that ever existed truly. The pure symmetry operations of creation from charge, the physics of the unified field, the real meaning of oneness. So I need slide number 209 here, and phase conjugate, here we are, 209. So first, we see that in your DNA, the angle at which these charge domains enter are based on the 4 pairs of codons which are tetrahedrally arranged. So if I look, I'm looking at the alphabet of the braiding angle for how your DNA could eat charge. Because if your DNA can't absorb that electric field, then biology can't remember it. So if I want to index the possible angles at which your DNA could swallow those electric fields, called your ABCs, I would then need to take these 7 arrows that spin through a tetrahedron, the physics of heart muscle, and notice that every arrow that passes through that tetra touches only one of the 7-color map. It's very touching. It's a rainbow connection. Every color touches every other color.